no one ever did for me. I'm going to give you the benefit of my experience.
Yeah.
If you use it
Prospecto,
well,
BX, you
we
heard?
get along.
Terror Squad.
If
Terminology.
you don't,
ST.
you have to answer
DC.
to me.
Yeah.
Do you understand, mister?
Yo, hey yo, y'all niggas ain't fucking with this. Busting my clips, blow your hands off for touching my chips. Y'all know we got them things tight if we up in the mix. Niggas losing their minds, got bitches cutting their wrists. Hey yo, y'all niggas ain't fucking with this. Busting my clips, blow your hands off for touching my chips. Y'all know we got them things tight if we up in the mix. Niggas losing their minds, got bitches cutting their wrists.
Bitches in the hood say that I'm a grimy bastard, but they know I drop hits in a timely fashion. Niggas bring it to my squad, then the 9 is blasted. Won't leave the studio till the rhyme is classic. I sleep with the toast, so if you like keeping your post, you better chill before you sleep with the ghost. I'm deeper than most, so if I say my shoes is thorough, then I ain't trying to tell you that my sneakers is dope. Rap keys, you can sneak in the boat. Stack G's, you can keep in the vote. Let me teach you the ropes. Hustle and dope's a joke. All my people and folk stay surrounded by the white like a piece of the yoke. Sleeping you broke. Niggas know that time is money, and on the block stool pigeon niggas screeching the pole, keeping the flow, but they tryna sink my ship. That's why I marry my clip, me and my heater low. We could just hope drama never comes our way, and we could just smoke. Mobilize the guns all day, my guns all spray. So don't have a bunch of people crowd around your hole like it's Groundhog Day. Cause I be happy to bury you, the more guns the merrier. But I'd rather murder the president of America. Mass hysteria, aircraft carriers, area 51 and aerial strikes, burials. Man, that's just a bunch of random shit. Imagine if I really got up on some ransom shit. Could give a fuck if you got a big heater. I'll still put you in a casket like the Crypt Keeper. So tell your man to stop pumping you up before the paramedics come and start pumping you up. Yeah, this is something you can pump when you drunk, on your way to catch a body with a pump in the trunk.
Hey yo, y'all niggas ain't fucking with this. Busting my clips, blow your hands off for touching my chips. Y'all know we got them things tight if we up in the mix. Niggas losing their minds, got bitches cutting their wrists. More. Hey yo, y'all niggas ain't fucking with this. Busting my clips, blow your hands off for touching my chips. Y'all know we got them things tight if we up in the mix. Niggas losing their minds, got bitches cutting their wrists. Yeah, what? Prospect, nigga. Yeah. Know the squad in the building.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, just came.
Welcome to the Machine Lies, where we talk about the lies of the machine on the machine that lies. And yeah, we got some interesting reflections for you guys. Honestly, let me holler at these people that are here. Blessings, holla, holla, holla. I greatly appreciate you guys. First to comment was this gentleman here, the panel verse, outlining the various escapades, right? Of course, we have a running program on the panel verse, so-called, right? Called Made by Machine Bob, right? So come and check out our program on the panel verse. We've probably assembled tons of clips. It may configure into the entire enterprise he's trying to establish there. But yeah, blessings to panel verse, Sleeper Cell Girl. How sweet it is to be loved by my sleeper cell girl. Blessings. I greatly appreciate you. Sailing South. Blessings to you, sir. Alchemos. What's going on, brother? Greatly appreciate you. TML Tuesday. Mind lessons. Oh, yeah. I always got a little something for you guys, but, it's always a random what direction it's going to go. Honestly, I haven't really planned any of the streams yet, right? It's just a bunch of random material that I put together, and sometimes it touches on some greater themes that we're trying to explore, right? Blessings to Alchemos. Blessings to Mega Man. Hey, we can continue our session that we had to cut short last time, right? If you want to come up, So, of course, we have time today to discuss all types of matters. If you guys see, there is an open panel here. So if you guys want to pop in and, I know Mega Man was giving a presentation last time we left, and, we can continue that, or we could do, oh man, this is a real problem. Out of coffee beans. Yikes. Yeah, I couldn't imagine. The struggle is real there. Yeah, blessings, brother. So yeah, so I'll wait for people to pop in here. Let me go to the other side of the room and sort of go and grab my coffee here, play this little beat here for you guys. Okay, so looks like that's not really that much prepared yet to grab that. So I appreciate you guys. But yeah, I'll turn that back on in a minute. But let me explore some themes with you guys, right? In terms of the regular ideas. Marcia, I appreciate you. Dresden, I appreciate you. Blessings. That shit ain't cute. Don't run out of beans. That shit ain't cute. Yeah, man. Blessings. I appreciate you, man. All right, so yeah, man. So where were we, man? We were talking about tons of issues in terms of the world technological system, right? And I've put forward this whole idea, or sort of this thesis, about techno liberalism, right? Now, obviously, the roots of a lot of ideas that comprise techno liberalism are ancient, right? So we get to these ancient ideas, these ancient configurations, okay, of thought, right? And of course, I'm arguing in a way that there's sort of four basic movements throughout history that I've outlined. And those four can be described in terms of man, changing views of man. Okay, so in a sense, I've talked about the sort of primordial man, the man of sort of, nature. So we've talked about how it's like for man to have a sort of one-to-one relationship with nature. Okay, and in that, right, we're talking about this concept that man is the measure of all things. Okay, that man is sort of a microcosm of the macrocosm. So more man discovers himself, he discovers the natural world around him. Okay, because that natural world is sort of a reflection of his own development in a way, right? So this idea that man is a one-to-one reflection with the cosmos being a Greek term that's invented by Pythagoras, right? And remember, Pythagoras is famous for the dictum that all is number, right? So so I think this is a reductive concept, right? That all is number, right? And we have the sort of conflict immediately between this view, okay, of these sort of ethereal and abstract forms impinging on reality, or whether reality is a construct of the mind, and how the immaterial relates to the material, right? So it's a combination of form and matter for Aristotle, right? But the forms are separate from nature in Plato, right? Nature is just an imitation of the forms, okay? So this basic understanding, right, that there's one system, right, where, through this understanding that all is number, right, we get to the concept fundamentally that there's these natural laws. Okay, so these natural laws impinge upon reality in certain ways. Like, for example, there's a concept called God, right? And this concept changes the entire scope of man's relationship to nature. Okay, allow me to explain how the concept of God changes man's whole relationship to nature, right? And I'll explain it through Christianity, right? Because I don't have time to look at all the world traditions right now, right? I'll just explain the worldview that developed out of Christianity, right? So that we can summarize the Western cosmology and the one that's borrowed for Western esotericism, right? Oh yeah, definitely. I'm trying to explain the inner workings of what the Kabbalistic idea, microcosm or macrocosm. That's definitely a Kabbalistic summation, right? So give me 1 second. I'll be right. All right. So yeah, I'm hearing this coffee pouring now. So we're gonna get some coffee going in a minute here, right? But I greatly appreciate you guys, right? In terms of we're looking at this concept that I formed, and I'm still sort of defining these different terms, okay? But we have this, I guess what I would call, right? Sort of the primordial man, right? Which is the man that is in tune with nature, right? And what I mean is, like, if you look at nature as just like no rhyme or reason to it, right? Then man is something that emerges from this chaos, right? And sort of has a one-to-one relationship with it. Okay, so if you think of this concept of Thales, that all is full of gods, okay, then we get to a sort of primitive pantheism, okay, in which nature is one in one with the divine, right? And nature is peopled with divinities, okay, and man is part of that inherent structure, okay? So there we have the primordial man that is one-to-one relationship with the cosmos, right? Man is the measure of all things. Okay, this view develops over time, right? Okay, and what we get is the introduction of God into the synthesis of man and nature. Okay, and this happens through developing these abstract principles, like I told you. Okay, like for example, how Pythagoras said all is number. And then Plato extrapolated that the forms are separate from nature. Okay, so the introduction of God into the schema, which was first heretical to the sort of pagans, right? Maybe, right? That they thought that there was many gods. Okay. So when you said there's one indescribable God that began all of creation, right? They kind of thought that doesn't make a lot of sense, right? Because what would he create the world out of if there wasn't already stuff that existed, right? So so they kind of thought, well, this God, so the philosophers, right, of the Christians and their co-religionists, right? They had to literally explain how God is separate from nature and how man is a synthesis of both these divine principles and the natural world. Okay, so they had to combine the notion that there's these immaterial, there's this immaterial world where perfect things can exist, perfect forms can exist, and there's a material world, right, of matter that's sort of, depreciated form of existence, right? That is sort of a spin-off of these forms, right? So the forms have to exist before the material world. Okay, the material world is in a sense an emanation of these forms, right? And man is a mediator between these forms and nature. So man all of a sudden gets promoted, right? In a sense, from being a subset of the divinity that exists within nature to then being a mediator between God and nature. Okay. So this is a very pivotal step and movement, right? And feel free to join, guys. I wonder why nobody's coming up. I know Mega Man was here before. I thought he'd come up, right? Because we were having a discussion that I kind of ended last time. But yeah, we'll drop the link again. Anybody's free to come up and, continue this discussion, right? And I hope people will, because I'm kind of saving all my material, like kind of gatekeeping the material for tomorrow. So I don't know. And I hope people will just come and talk to me. Good Lord. We're only supposed to be here for 2 hours. So we'll see if we can get our friends up here. But and yeah, and looks like our friend Gabriel was supposed to go live, but he's not live for some reason, right? So we can't call into his stream either. Okay, let me continue my explanations. Because I could be doing this for a while. Okay, so in terms of man, okay, as a relation to the cosmos, and as a part of the divinity that exists within the cosmos, but then being a mediator for the divine through these divine principles that exist apart from nature. Okay, so man went from being a measure of all things to then being a mediator between heaven and earth. And this was a pivotal step, right? Because the divine principle now exists apart from nature. It exists basically in a heavenly state. And now the primordial man is a heavenly being. Right? It's a great shift, right? The primordial man now becomes a heavenly being. Okay, and this heavenly being, right? And I'm explaining the development of universalism. especially within the West, that then ties into Western esotericism, right, and the Christian Kabbalah, right, and uses this idea from Plato to then talk about how man can supersede nature through spiritual evolution, right? And this obviously ties into the myth of progress. And yeah, so we'll bring this out, right? And so next, right? As you have man, okay, that is now, okay, and the perfect explanation for this is the prologue of John, where it says, or in the explanation of it, right, St. Athanasius claimed that in order for man to become like God, God had to become like man. So this is a bridge between the heavenly being man and the earthly being man. Right, because the prologue of John tells us that man was there before the creation of the world in the form of the second Adam. Okay, because it says in the beginning there was a Logos, and the Logos was with God, and the Logos was God. Okay, so what it's saying is that the creation of man is no mere accident, and it's definitely not a lesser divinity than the divinity that exists in nature. No, it's a greater divinity than the divinity that exists within nature. Okay, and furthermore, this points to a notion of the archetypal man, right? It points backwards to a bunch of different conceptions, right? For example, Adam Kadmon, right, that was created by the Jews, right? The idea of the archetypal man, okay, of the Mandaeans, right? Rabbi Akiva was talking about Adam Kadmon, right? So we have this notion in Second Temple Judaism, okay, that likely they borrowed from some sort of Alexandrian script, right? Where they're trying to Platonize Judaism. And so they're, you know, mixing all these things together, right? So the creation of the archetypal man, who's now above nature, a mediator for heaven and earth, ties into the creation of the universal man, right? That I've explained earlier, right? The universal man is basically man and nature put back in a one-to-one relationship without God, right? So now the root of man is man himself. Okay, and what does it mean for in terms of the root of man is man himself, right? That means that man gets to define himself. He's not defined by heaven through these divine principles, right? Tempered by natural law. No. Right? This man gets to style himself as God, right? So this follows the 3 steps that Rousseau presents of our sort of collective devolution, right? First, we saw nature peopled with divinities. Then we went into the temple and constructed gods. And then we kicked the gods out of the temple and became the gods ourselves, right? And then the 4th step through this, right, after the creation of the universal man, right? Because once man becomes universalized, right, and that means that he stands, that every man is the executioner of the laws of nature. Okay, man gets to define himself. Man now chooses new values, right? Man used to value goodness and truth, right? But now he values freedom and knowledge. Okay, so this is a shift in man's valuations, in his value systems, right? Okay? And finally, right? What happens is through this sort of transvaluation of values, if you will, right? Since there's no God, man gets to define himself, right? What really starts to define man is his creativity. So in this way, man becomes a sort of object among objects, right? As he creates himself, right? He starts to worship his own creations. So the spiritual evolution of man is a merger of the divinity that's within man with what's become desacralized within nature, right? So it's trying to bring nature up to man's divinity because man has replaced God. So this is an attempt to pull nature up by its bootstraps, right? And place it in the status of divinity through man's creations, right? So nature can become sanctified through man's creations, right? Because it's become desacralized through the sense in which man first became separate from it, then started to define it, and then became defined by his own creations. Okay, because see, what we create creates. And not only that, right? The tools we shape and use, they shape us. And so this constant pursuit of knowledge, right, leads to the encirclement of man, the depersonalization of man, the transformation of man into stuff into numbers, into quantifiable, calculable psychotechnics, right? And mechatechnics, right? And how did we get into this mess? Well, we simply became divorced. Right? We became divorced of our connection with nature, right? We've attempted to quantify and explain all things, right? So it's led to the loss of the sacred. Right? We've tried to deify man. And that's led to a total misconception of what God is, right? We've taken God out of nature. We've placed man in the temple, right? And now we're back to worshiping man's creations, the idol, trying to transform nature into the divinity that we once experienced when we were in her grace and in her bosom at the beginning of creation, without a care in the world. And so this is, in short, the story of man. The last stage is the mass man, the massification of man. Right? When man is made universal, he's able to become massified, right? Through the monoculture, mass-produced, homogenized, through cultural homogeneity, right? Techniques are driving culture. They're driving politics, right? Everything is transformed into the economic sphere. Everything is transformed into the technical sphere, right? Economics and international trade and technological progress supersede all political frameworks. And the global technological system supersedes all models of nation states. So we're looking at the death of the nation state, the death of capitalism, the death of the democratic spirit, and the death of liberalism. What grows out of liberalism is the world technological system, right? The very thing that led to the massification of man, the quantification of man. Is anybody going to hop up? I greatly appreciate you guys for listening. Maybe we'll move to Guanan if nobody hops up, right? And I greatly appreciate you guys. I'm talking about 4 different stages in the development of man. Okay, give me 1 second. Let me grab my coffee, right? I appreciate you guys. Okay, and you know what? I'm just gonna warm that up later because that is not the appropriate temperature. That's okay. I'll drink coffee in 20 minutes. We get some people in here. Um, but yeah, I appreciate you guys. Art of Dying Gore-Tex, that's an excellent song. And I'll move to Comfort and Information. I appreciate you, Voy. Blessings. And Dom, thank you for joining. Mega Man, you're welcome up if you want to continue your presentation. I greatly appreciate you. And Cosmos versus Chaos. Yeah, that's a cool thing. That's pretty cool. But yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you look at chaos, chaos might be understood as the void, right? And this thing is have is have this thing does have a important development, right? Okay, because for example, the void first exists alongside matter, right? So first it's got an existence alongside matter in terms of it's combined with matter in a way that's fundamental, right? So so it's got a as Plato explained, it's like music, right? There's spaces in between the notes. So it's like everything functions as like a on off switch, like zeros and ones, if you will, right? So it's like the Matrix, right? So so there's all this idea, right, about how the void exists alongside physical matter, right? But then it changes to something that has to come into no, sorry, not come into existence, but exists before the creation of matter, right? So so this is the idea that God created the world out of nothing, right? And then it sort of exists as a principle that can be used to shape and mold the world, right? So then it sort of exists as something that, you know, in the sense of Prigozhin, right, causes things to move far from equilibrium. Okay, that causes a change, a new way to develop, right? So things sort of swing off and develop a new path, right? So there's this other way of this evolutionary cycles that sort of, you know, seem to get more and more you know, complex as time goes on. And the information gets more tightly and tightly packed as the sort of loop increases, right? And the changes happen at a sort of exponential pace. So there's this idea of this chaos and complexity developing over time, right? That leads to sort of greater and greater forms of order. And so it's like the existing order will be spurred off by some chaos and lead to an even better version of itself, right? So that's kind of like the version of the void or nothing or chaos and change, right, that we've become accustomed to in our sort of common parlance today is this sublimation of chaos within the framework of order, right? Through this sort of eschatological scheme, and that sort of develops into the myth of progress itself, right? So this is important to realize that there's this movement as well, right? Of nothing, right? Of course, matter itself enters a bunch of different stages, right? First, matter is spiritual, right? Then it takes on a property of being mathematical, right? Then it takes on a property of being sort of totally sort of physical, right? And then it changes to sort of becoming energetic, right? So, and now they're kind of arguing whether it's energy or it's just stuff, right? Right. And that'll be the last sort of go of things. And of course, they are confused about where to place mind in all this, right? How does mind arise from dead matter? That's a great question that they can't answer, right? And how do you get something from nothing? Right? These are great questions that we've sort of asked on the show, right? And is nature creative? Right? And what is the creative principle within nature? Right? Is it driving towards chaos, or is it driving towards order? Or is there another principle that exists within nature that's hijacking in man, right? That is causing us to take the chaos in nature and apply order to it, force order onto it, right? That causes us to enslave ourselves by some sort of solid state entity that sort of nature is fighting. They're trying to, offset these changes, right? Offset this constant improvement, right? So we have to ask ourselves just what is happening, right? And of course, the developing change of man, right, within the cosmic scope of man, right, where first he develops, as I said, right, there's this idea that man has a one-to-one relationship with the cosmos, right, where man is sort of the measure of all things. Okay, then he develops into this notion of the archetypal man. Okay, where he has a one-to-one, not one-to-one relationship with nature, but now is a mediator outside of nature. He exists in a heavenly being. Okay, so he changes from being a primordial being that exists within nature, that's part of the divine substrate, to then being reflected through divine principles being separate from nature. Okay, and this is the stage where, as I said, it moves from man being the measure of all things, right, right? It moves from man being the measure of all things to then the stage where, in order for man to become like God, God had to become like man. And then thirdly, it moves to a stage where the root of man is man himself. And then fourthly, right, we gave room for this state where man starts to worship his own creations. The slave gives birth to its own master, right? The slave is the individual. He has no history. He's the beginning of his own story. Okay, and this sort of deracinated, rootless sort of individual that's not tied to the earth, not tied to any traditions or human civilization, right? This is just the mass man. And the mass man is a product of universalism, the failure of universalism, right? And of course, the establishment of techno-liberalism. Liberalism died and gave birth to techno-liberalism, which is really just scientific totalitarianism at the end of the day, right? The goals of techno-liberalism are the complete subjugation and quantification of man through techniques. Yeah, so let's get into this idea of psychotechnics and the mass man and how man created the image of himself, right? But yeah, after this idea that the root of man is man himself, right? And actually I presented very earlier that these quotes actually have origins, right? Man is the measure of all things is a quote by Protagoras, right? Okay. In order for man to become like God, God had to become like man is a quote by St. Athanasius. And the root of man is man himself is a quote by Karl Marx. All reflecting the changing and developing ethos of the West. And of course, Karl Marx was he had a fundamental belief, right? Karl Marx, he had a fundamental belief in the progress of man, because see, he was a Hegelian. See, built into the idea of Hegel is this idea of progress. Okay, that's what most people don't understand. It's built into the very idea of Hegelian philosophy, right? So yeah, all right. So nobody's calling in. Anyways, here I'll drop the link again. Blessings to the people. We'll play some things. And yeah, I appreciate you guys. And yeah, call in if you have some things to say. Otherwise, I may go on or open up some text and figure out what we're talking about. And you know what I mean? We got this guy here. Let me see if he'll wave to us. Blessings. Okay, yeah. So here, hold on. Let me now do this and see if he's a real person. Greetings.
What's going on?
Hey, blessings. Yes, I've
Yeah.
spoken to you before. How are you doing
Yeah,
today?
Not too bad. How about you?
Yeah, we spoke a long time ago on the Cockboy Hotline stream.
I don't remember, but you were talking about the illusion of progress and creating man in God's image and stuff. I was curious if you've ever heard of the Shemitah cycle before.
Shemitah cycle. No, break that down for me. I'm gonna pour this coffee into a pot so I can warm it up, and and I'll hear you explain the Shemitah. Was it Shemitah cycle?
Shemitah, it's basically it's like in relation to the Sabbath. So you know how you have 6 days of creation, then 1 day of rest. You also have the Shemitah cycle on the cosmic scale, which is like every 7,000 years, right? So it would be 1,000 years for each day represented in the 7 days of creation. Well, 6 days of creation, 1 day of rest. But what's interesting to me is that you were talking about how, you know, man, people are trying to be like God, and God created man in his image. we're about to be entering to the 6,000 years in the Jewish calendar coming up not too long from now. I think it's like, what, 200 years away? But on day 6 of creation, God created land and animals and humans in his image. So there's the idea that this false progress that they're leading us to is kind of being forced upon us in like this cosmic Shemitah cycle, if that makes any sense. Because during that 6,000, that 1,000 year period, starting at the year 6,000, well, basically humans will be stepping back to either thinking that they are God or trying to be as close to God's image as possible before the 1,000 years of rest for the Sabbath, which ironically lines up with what's going on with AI as well, because if you think about what AI is doing, they're trying to replace all activities with AI instead. So during that, if that lines up correctly, then during that Sabbath 1,000 years, AI would be doing everything for humans while we rest. And a lot of rabbis are talking about this too, which I find extremely interesting.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Yeah, never heard about that. Yeah, that's interesting. I did hear about like the Jubilee year and all that type of stuff, and I wrote like this entire like passage in my book about the Jubilee year and about how it's about like sort of or at least to put it in the way that Martin Buber, right, sort of wrote about this, right? He's talking about how the Jubilee year is about like healing the earth, right? Or something like that. So there's this weird sort of take of environmentalism, right, that he has, right, within his explanation of Baal, right? Because he's saying that Baal is sort of like, it represents how we take control of the fertility rights, right, and then connect the blood sacrifices to the weather patterns, right?
Wow.
So his idea is that, like I don't know, he's coming like kind of close to saying like that, like population control and weather control is like some sort of sacrifice to Baal or something, that it's a perversion of this Jubilee year, right, where you're supposed to essentially allow the usufruct of the land to lie fallow, right, for this regeneration period, and then forgive all debts, and so that there wouldn't be this idea of exorbitant debt that.
Well, I think that one of the reasons that they've created these corporations and stuff like that is they love to find workarounds for these laws that they have set up. So if they're not the ones that are giving the debts out to people, then basically they don't have to honor that rule of forgiving debts because they're not actually the ones who are the owners of who you're in debt to, right? It's really strange. But I found this is from Sanhedrin. I'll read it to you real quick if you don't mind. So
Yeah,
this
the Nascent Sanhedrin that printed the Trump Cyrus coin.
no, this is from the Sepharia website. It's just Sanhedrin 97a.
Oh, okay. You're talking about the document. Okay.
Yeah. So this says, Rav Katina says 6,000 years is the duration of the world, and it is in ruins for 1,000 years. The duration of the period during which the world is in ruins is derived from a verse, as it is stated, quote, "And the Lord alone shall be exalted on that day, and the day of God lasts 1,000 years." Abaye says, "It is in ruins for 2,000 years, as it is stated, after 2 days he will revive us, and on the third day he will revive us, and we shall live in his presence." So it kind of lines up with the idea of how they start the Sabbath a little bit early on Fridays to get ready for that whole process as well. And then it kind of like spills in, just to be safe so they don't mess anything up. It kind of spills into the next following day as well. But yeah, I just think the whole concept of it is really interesting because you can kind of line up with the days of creation. If you put each 1,000 years of human history that we have, it kind of lines up with the vibe and what was taking place on that day of creation. It's just really interesting. And the lost history that we have as well kind of lines up with this Shemitah cycle because they said it only lasts 6,000 years and everything's basically reset. So it's like, are they intentionally resetting it? Or I don't know. I just find it very interesting. And I was listening to you while I was hanging out and figured I'd just share it with you if you didn't hear of it before.
Yeah, this also could relate to Rene Guénon. I don't know if you've heard of Rene Guénon and his concept of the Kali Yuga and of this devolution cycle. And also, there's another idea that my friend brought up in Buddhism called the Dharma ending age. Right. So there's actually here he is right now. Right. But yeah, the Dharma ending age. What can you tell us about this Buddha?
Yeah, so the Buddha was around 600 BC, and I think in some Mahayana Buddhists say 1,000 years after. Let me see here. After the Buddha dies, the Dharma is in a good state. Then another 1,000 years is starting to decline, and then the next 10,000 years is in a state of terminal decline, and that's the Dharma ending age. And the terminal decline is when it starts around 1600 AD, 1600, which is actually close to the steam engine. Well, it's kind of close to the steam engine. I can show you this. There's a good. Here I can give this. Yeah, you can do that if you want to. Yeah, here you go.
Okay. And then, yeah. Okay.
So the first 1,000 years is called former period of Dharma. That's around 680. So that's from 680 to 600 BC. Age of semblance Dharma. That's the second 1,000 years. This is it's the age of right Dharma, but it's harder to attain enlightenment. That's from 680 to 1680, and then the last age of the Dharma, which is the next 10,000 years, from 1680 to the next 10,000 years, which is that's some Buddhist and Mahayana sutras and commentary.
So in total, this is 12,000 years.
Yeah,
that's very interesting. Yeah, I have not heard of that before, but I'm glad that you shared it. Thank you.
And then I have a book by actually, I wonder where the fuck I put this book. But yeah, it's a book by Joseph Campbell, right? Called Inner and Outer Worlds. Right? And in that book, he tries to line up it's something like these warriors pass through Wotan's Hall, right? And there's like a certain number of warriors that pass through like 800 times. So anyways, he says it adds up to 432,000, and then he like says 432 or something like that is like the number of like the Kali Yuga. Like, have you guys ever heard this?
I have not.
Like it's 144,000 times 3, right? So like Archaics uses this number, right? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Let me see. 432,000. Yeah, so they say that the Sumerian kings, right, but also the number of years for a yuga cycle, right, it adds up to like that many years, right? So like I guess Rene Guénon calculated that we are in the Kali Yuga, right, which he said started like 3,100 BC or something like that, right? And he took this to mean that we're living in like the last age or something like that. So there's this whole idea of like, we're living in like, the last age, right? Which I don't know. It seems that that's kind of like what this idea is implying that you're talking about, right? With this greater Sabbath.
Yeah,
right?
the only difference between that and what that guy's saying is that in this frame of reference, I think we're only in like the third or fourth cycle, so there should be 6 in total before the big one, which would be the day of rest, where everything is just the universe supposedly ends. But then theoretically, it would restart after that as well. I can't remember which Shemitah cycle the rabbis say we're on right now off the top of my head, but I think it's either the 4th or the 5th of these 7,000 years. Because it's kind of like we were talking about with the belief before. It's the 7,000 years goes 7 times 7, 49,000 years, all that stuff. It's pretty much anything in like groups of 7 is what they go by. 7 days, 7 decades, whatever.
Yeah.
Different.
Yeah, and then like Guanan and Evola, right? They take this idea to the extreme, right? The myth of progress, right? They basically just look at the history we have and they invert it, right? And they start saying like basically like man was connected with nature, then he moved further and further away from nature, became more and more mechanized, right? And until he became like enslaved to technology, right? Into like the lower impulses. Right. And he said that like basically man started off as like with the warrior spirit, essentially like in tune with nature, and they understood being, and then they kind of fell into abstraction and moved into the state of becoming and lost their understanding of like these hierarchical principles that kept them in tune with like these they're like higher nature or whatever. So he basically said that this move to decadence can be seen in the Greek civilization, right? That they basically had an understanding of their ethnos, and then they moved into sort of becoming more humanistic, in a sense, right? And that this idea of like sort of anthropocentrism, anthropomorphism, right, when it showed up in the religion, that it sort of corrupted their sort of cosmic views of things, and that this degeneration, that sort of the move towards rational is a move away from the super irrational, right? They said that there's something above just a rational mind, that's like this supra rational sort of religious view of things, right? And they saw this sort of reflected in all the world traditions, which they said has been lost, right? They said we've moved further away from our traditions, we've moved further away from our culture, we moved further away from nature, right? So they said there's this collective devolution, right? So in the 2 works that we've been citing recently, the work by Rene Guanan is called Crisis of the Modern World. The work by Evola is called Revolt Against the Modern World. So they're pretty interesting because they're like weird occultists, and they came up with lots of ideas, right? Like for example, right? They came up with the idea of like Agartha and Shambhala and stuff, right? That's used in a lot of occult mythology, right? This idea that like there's a place inside the earth, right? Or so they came up with lots of occult concepts, and they came up with a school called traditionalism, which is like a super ultra sort of conservative school within perennialism, that says you have to embed yourself within a tradition that exists, and so on and so forth. But yeah.
I had not heard of that book by Rene Guanan, but I did find a copy, so thank you.
Oh yeah.
Do you think there's something guiding this de-evolution and kind of forcing this upon humanity, or do you think it's just in our nature that it just automatically leads towards this?
Well, I definitely don't believe in the eschaton, right? So like I think that that's a no-go for me, that there's something that's reaching into the past from the future and is driving this change, right? But I do think there is a greater impulse within humanity, like the type that I explained in the beginning of the show, right? A move from universalism to sort of this the mass man, right? And that means that basically, right, like for the transhumanist, right, like I think that they're gonna be basically opposed by like the techno Guyanus, right? So there's gonna be like two groups, and I definitely think there's something driving it in terms of the next move is like to find a philosophy that can either support a myth for like what I call mechanos, right, which is like the mechanistic worldview, right? So they have to create a myth for it, right? So the birth of the mythos for mechanos, right, is either going to be a philosophy or a spirituality that's centered around the machine, or it's centered around nature, right? There's only two ways it could go, right? So I think these two sides will be in conflict with each other, right? Essentially, right? There's going to be like Discordians versus accelerationists, right? Where they're like, there's like earth guys, like sort of like trans vegans versus like gay Nazis, right? And like that's kind of like the future, and they're both going to be fighting. Yeah, they're both going to be like fighting for how to drive like the world technological system, right? They want to be in the driver's seat, right? And one of them is going to say, well, we need to get a hold of this technology so we can heal the earth. And the other one is going to say, no, we need this technology so we can leave the earth and go to space, and so on and so forth. I mean, right? So either way you look at it, I think all the conflicts of the world are going to be centered around technological progress, right? Because I think it's the thing that's driving ideology and culture and society. How did it get in the driver's seat? That's something for sociologists and experts and philosophers and things to explore. I put like my little 2 cents in here, right, where I say like, oh, I think these are the root causes, but of course I could be wrong, right? And I'm just one man, so I
just think it's like a nature versus nurture type thing in my opinion, because I feel like even when people are trying to do good in their lives, just the environment we have around us, regardless of what type of philosophy we have internally, we still fall victim to the same behavior and like uncontrollable urges that everyone else around us has, even though we don't want to do those things. We end up just not behaving the way we want to behave or acting the way we think we should act. Like I feel like the environment around us causes a lot of these problems that we have. So that's why I was asking if there's some sort of driving force behind this, forcing humanity to behave this way. Because I mean, as much as it sucks to admit it, like I feel like most people do struggle with vices, no matter who they are and no matter what you want to believe about yourself. I think everyone has these vices that they can't seem to get over, and I think the environment has a large role to play in that.
Yeah, and I think one of the main things that's driving it is that we can all debate about what caused this, right? But I think we moved from a viewpoint, because see, man's whole life used to be centered around religion and art, right? And religion and art were pretty much the same thing. If you look in the past, right, that's what we see, right? We see that man's sort of religious expression was tied to his artistic expression, right? And now, right, it's pretty much the goal of human society is more about science and politics and securing those things, right? So how do we get to this idea that man is fundamentally a political animal and sort of can be determined by scientific laws, and all that stuff? Well, it's like a sort of 3-stage thing, and I think that this sort of explains what Guénon and Evola and all these guys and a lot of other thinkers, I mean, also Rousseau, right? Jean-Jacques Rousseau, right? And his discourses on inequality, and a bunch of other philosophers and thinkers that critique the Enlightenment thought and the development of the scientific worldview, right? They basically say that religion, right, was just as good as the philosophical worldview at deciding things, which is just as good as the scientific worldview. They all just come to different conclusions about things, right? But the religious point of view is not better than the philosophical point of view, and it's not better than the scientific point of view, right? So, actually, you can trace, in a sense, in how the philosophical point of view is actually a devolution from the religious point of view, and the scientific point of view is actually a devolution from the philosophical point of view, right? Meaning that, man first found his role to be like a cosmic, like he had a divine role, right? And then he had a role that was defined by reason. Like, we need to figure out the stars and the earth and the way everything functions. And that led to the scientific worldview, right? Where we're defined by, sort of facts and knowledge and statistics and all that stuff. And then we convert man through that to become the object of techniques, right? So we say, well, we can figure out what man is doing inside. Like, we could figure out what's going on inside of his head, right, through techniques, right? So then we say, well, man has to be completely calculable, right? And so what's driving it, I think, is knowledge goes up and values go down, right? As we used a Polish philosopher, right, named Henryk Skolimowski to explain, right, that as we gain in knowledge, our search for values goes down, right? So we used to search for things like, what is the value of nature? What is the value of man? Right now we just, as Marx said, right? He said, up till now, philosophers have been trying to understand the world. What if the point was not to understand it, but to change it? And what does the Tao Te Ching say? It says, if you try to change the world, you'll fail. You can't change the world and improve it, right? So this is a complete reversal of our role, right? I mean,
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
It's about hubris, right? Man has, too much hubris, and that comes from this phase where we tried to, first of all, we had this concept of the heavenly man, right? That then, we became the God, right? And now the God is going to be something that we create, right? So see, this is 3 levels to shit, right? where it's getting further away from us, right? First it's outside of us, then it becomes us. Now it comes out of us, right? So God moves throughout history, right? And that's what transhumanism really is, right?
Yeah, I think we're still in the process of people thinking that they're God. I feel like that's like the whole culture we have with celebrities and social media and all that stuff, is everyone, sees themselves as God. I mean, you see it on social media constantly. People are like, oh, I manifest my reality. I am God. It's just such a normal, casual subject now for like the average Joe. But yeah, I got to get going. Unfortunately, I got to get ready for bed, but appreciate the
blessings.
conversation.
Yeah,
Yep,
thank
have
you
a
for
good night.
joining. Excellent conversation. Yeah,
Easy.
thanks for being here. Yeah, blessings. Yeah, so what do you guys think? Excellent guest.
Yeah, I think one of the main aspects of how we got to where we are right now is because technology, or the techniques behind technology, are amoral. If they were outright immoral, then maybe we would have had fortitude to fight against it. But since they're amoral, it was kind of a trap. and that's I mean, it's not, you know, in a vacuum, but that's one of the contributing factors to where we are today.
Tartarian truth.
All that guy does is make videos about archaics.
And Santos.
I don't know who that is.
I think.
I think like a week ago oh wait, no, 2 weeks ago we had him on.
Santos Bonacci.
Being the words or symbols, can they truly tell you what is or the nature of reality? I think we can put symbols together in so many different ways. It's called combinatrix, you know, combine the matrix or something, and you can put it in so many different ways and express so much, but maybe it's ultimately limited. I think symbols, when you start treating them for instrumental ends, or you think that if you appropriate symbols and you hold on to the symbols for self-identification in a certain way, and that they're guiding you to something, or that symbols have a kind of end goal to it or something, that's the problem. I think ultimately the highest form of knowledge comes from resigning from the symbols. You know, basically letting go of the symbols, loosening fixation on the symbols, you know, because it's ultimately anything impotent in describing the suchness, you know, the way things are. And so I think that's kind of what my tradition would say, or something, that the mechanization of symbols or mechanization of the world starts by fixating on symbols and assuming that there's like a correspondence between them and the way things are in a manner that yeah, something like that.
Symbols are, I think they're both natural and they are both just abstract representations of things. They're natural because many symbols come out of animals, which implies that humanity is connecting forces that they're dealing with that were beyond their comprehension with things that they could see in the natural world. And I brought up snakes lots of times, and even trees as well, as these both represent, snakes represent frequencies and trees represent the interconnectivity of things. So I don't know exactly how or when they would have figured out what these things meant, but it certainly wouldn't be the way a scientist understands it, these waves and interconnectedness through
You that. Oh, that. I have some
Yeah, you hit the wrong button.
I have some interesting things to say when I come back.
Oh no, here it is. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I don't know what I did. But anyway, as I was saying, the way an ancient man or person would have understood these symbols or understood the natural world obviously would not be the way a scientist would. But it would still be adequate in that they could do what they needed to do, you know, to survive and, you know, maybe even thrive in some circumstances if they were exceptionally skilled and hardworking or intelligent. But yeah, so that's just when it comes to symbols, I don't know how much of it is natural and how much of it is just our own abstract imagination. Because if we took avian's perspective and, you know, assume that animals millions of years from now develop symbolic reference, would they not just develop symbols based off of the animals or the world around them, like trees and such?
Yeah, I have a lot to say about that. You know, first I want to say, regarding iconic and lexical and symbolic reference, you know, that's the C.S. Peirce. That's true, definitely. I think, you know, like all life is a sign producing system, you know, and that involves interpretation. You know, one thinker I like, his name was Jacob von Uexküll. He influenced Jesper Hoffmeyer. You know, let's look at the Uexküll's classic tick example. You know, like any mammal, they have like butyric acid odor, hair, warmth, and blood, and that serves as a sign. You know, which a tick that, like, let's say there's a tick on a tree, it sees the sign, it smells it, or like the odor or the warmth, and then it interprets that sign that comes from the mammal, and it drops down to suck their blood or something. So it's like, you know, there's like a kind of recognizing and attacking prey, taking blood. So, you know, like there's a sign, and then there's an interpretation of that sign that maps it to the object, which then involves that. So, you know, nature does have lots of signs to it. It's like semiotics, you know, it's like biosemiotics. There are signs like butyric acid. Even in your body, you know, cells have bioelectrical signaling. They have their membranes are always moving. You know, there are signs like ions. You know, the ions or the neurotransmitters, they bind to a receptor, right? You know, and then there's a process of interpretation, and that, you know, so even the cells can like interpret signs, and that maps it to the object. And so, you know, and the biosemiotics of Jesper Hoffmeyer goes into that. But there's an anomaly. The symbolic reference is symbol to symbol. You know, it's like arbitrary tokens that only make sense within this open-ended symbolic system. That's unique to human beings. You know what I mean? Like, but there are proto-symbolic species. Like you can teach some combinatorial possibilities to other higher developed animals, like more, not higher developed, but more cognitively advanced. But the thing is that humans are so like openly ended symbolic that kids are born and they babble to each other. You know what I mean? Like they start talking to each other. No other primate does that. No other primate talks to itself, like babbling or something. Like it's like the kids are getting primed to open-ended symbolic systems that are unique to human beings. So open-ended symbolic system, you know, like what I said about the red flag, you know, red flag pointing to danger, that's a correlation. You know, that's indexical reference.
So I got a
flag
question.
that points to like legacy or what is absent. You know, like that only makes sense to symbol. That is symbolic reference. So yeah,
My question is, let's say a dog or dogs became the species after humans to achieve symbolic reference. Well, dogs' eyesight suck, but their smell is really good, and even their hearing is good. So what if they develop symbols in alignment with their sense or hearing?
yeah, it's possible. You know, I don't see why it's not possible. I was gonna say there's this nice channel I recommend. I don't agree with him on everything. He's Casey Art, you know, but the thing is the E and Casey CAS is spelled with a 3, and then YART. He actually does create artwork, and he reads a lot of peer-reviewed sources, and he imagines like a future, like, you know, of different organisms evolving towards symbolic reference. Like he's done dogs, he's done cats, he's done crows. Actually, I like his video on crows. Elephants. You know, it's possible, but the thing is, their cognition would be somewhat different from us. You know, they probably, with their smell would be different. The colors they can see would be different. You know, because, you know, birds can see ultraviolet color. We cannot, right? You know, that's one example. There are copious examples like that. You know, our senses are limited. You know, I mean, we have limited senses. You know, but so do they. You know, they have different senses. You know, different. It's attuned for different things. But yeah, you know, yeah. I think when you start looking at semiotics, you know, I think it's kind of more Lamarckian. It's more Lamarckian than Darwinian. It's more closer to Lamarck in some sense. So, you know, this gets into complex
I
stuff.
don't know who that is.
You don't know who Lamarck was?
I don't think so.
Yeah, Lamarck, he argued that you know, adaptation involves use and disuse, and there is a kind of directional complexifying force to adaptations and stuff like that. And so it's not random for him. It's more
Yeah.
yeah, like the giraffe has a long neck because they constantly use it over and over again to get like leaves to munch on and stuff, you know. So it kind of causes I don't know, a kind of directional channeling, you know, probably like a semiotic channeling for the longer neck, you know. Yeah, this is getting into more complicated territory. I'll talk about that later. Yeah, I have to read more about that stuff, but you know, this gets into questions like functional teleonomy versus telos and other questions. You have to think more. Yeah, this stuff like canalization too. Canalization is very important. You don't see many people talk about canalization much. You know, niche construction is important. Niche construction can actually tie into canalization and biasing the mutations and other stuff like that. You know, yeah, I can go into that more. I don't want to derail this, so but we can. I'm gonna make my own channel. And so
I thought you already did, didn't you? Or I thought you made it
yeah,
again.
no, I made it again, but I have to, you know, polish some things, and then I'm gonna make my StreamYard maybe. But I also have to read some more though. I have some other books I want to read. Haven't been as much in the reading mode in the past month or two. I'll get back to it again. So, well, the point is, right now we're in a serious decline. I think we are in a serious decline now because the symbols are instrumentalized. I do think symbols could contain a kind of, I don't know, hidden secret to them that can point to things beyond themselves or higher metaphysical truth, like being. Parmenidean being is one example of a higher metaphysical truth. You know, order, chaos. See, the order has a kind of fractal-like aspect to it. You know, it's kind of recursive. Or chaos. Oh, what's
So
that?
this decline, oh, that picture. But this decline, I would say that it is connected to, you guys talk about the Kali Yuga cycles a lot. And basically, my understanding of it is it's this U shape where humanity starts out as these ascended beings and then gradually through the ages descends. And then once they hit rock bottom, they reascend and come back to the ascension gradually, having experienced essentially the floor of consciousness. So transhumanism's goal is they think that this U shape or this trajectory back upward is going to be technological. But what pretty much every spiritual tradition on the planet will tell you is that no, we don't need anything external. All we need to do is refine what was lost within us. And this is what I don't think the transhumanists get. We already have all we need for this transcendence.
Yeah, I think that's something that Buddha said a lot. Mega Man. The signless awareness. is what he's termed it. So yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, I would say symbolism is connected to transhumanism through associating natural symbols that I was talking about earlier with synthetic things gradually as time goes on. And it has to be done slowly and gradually because the people either will not accept it or understand it if it happens too fast. Which you could say it is happening fast.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like you gotta like map the symbols to the synthetic items, and that's kind of like creating like the whole virtual space, right? And then it's like, then you got to put man in that space. It's like the cherry on top, right?
Yeah, Baudrillard, my friend is into Baudrillard's simulacra and simulation, and that's kind of what his main focus is on. What you just said.
Is he for or against it?
Well, I haven't read the book yet. I only know about him from talking about him to my friend, but I think he's ultimately against it. I think he's kind of doesn't like it. Yeah, that's the sense I get from what my friend told me. He would probably hate this day and age, you know, with AI and AI generated videos and artwork and stuff like that. He would really hate it. I'm like 100% sure about that from talking about with my friend. So,
How do you guys feel?
Baudrillard, I can't pronounce it.
See, I feel like disclosure is very heavily related to transhumanism, and it's been going around lately. And I knew it was. I watched something several years ago that said that basically the U.S. was not going to be able to hold on to secrets, so they're going to release all this information. Unfortunately, it's not the information people want. I think they'd want some other files, but basically what the government has convinced people is that there are these UFOs, which they don't confirm it, but they always like to insinuate that they're from some other planet and that there are some other beings in there flying around or something. And basically it's life from another planet, probably, not of this earth. All the while, they're over here supporting these people who are literally transforming the earth and the native life on it into something that is alien through transhumanism. And then while they've been gaslighting people for decades saying, no, this stuff's not real, not only this, they actively created fake images as well to circulate with the real images so people would not even know the difference. That now they're coming out and saying that, no, this is a threat we got to take seriously. Wow. This transhuman agenda is pretty much at its height in history. So I would say that these transhumanists are the aliens, and they've got everyone looking up instead of looking right in their face, the people who are actually here terraforming the earth into something alien.
Yeah, I would say the terraforming of the earth has been going on before even the stuff like railroads or interstate highways. Interstate highways were initially created for war purposes. Then they were repurposed for civilian use. So you have to destroy a lot of forests to make interstate highways, and highways in general, all that concrete, and this kind of leads to soil erosion too. And I think concrete also is not very good for like the
Yes,
microbiology of the soil and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
I agree.
It's been going on for a while. Yeah, chemical weapons used on Vietnam, like Agent Orange, and that still lingers. You know what I mean? That causes like birth defects and stuff like that. It messes up some kids can be born with birth defects. Not long ago, Saudi Arabia was using chemical weapons on Yemen. You know what I mean? So it's still going on and stuff. Yeah, the point is that it's been pretty bad since I think at least World War One or World War Two. It's been going on. It's been accelerating since World War One or World War Two. I think so.
Yeah, I mean, there are still battlefields from World War One that are to this day polluted and just full of all these chemicals from the war. I mean, just think of an explosion. We can see it, go up into a ball of fire, but we have no idea what other forces are being emitted from these bombs that we're not seeing. Because, like I've said, we can only actually see like 0.00003% of the environment. So we're doing all kinds of stuff to the earth that we have no chance of understanding. But we know that what we're doing is bad for basically, either for aliens to terraform the earth or for some short-sighted people just looking for profits and power.
Yeah, this is we could fill up books regarding all the problems brought from the technological industrial order and its increasing complexification, and now it's becoming more alien. Like you have organoid intelligence now, biocomputing. You have stuff like directed energy weapons, lethal autonomous weapons. You have a lot of crazy stuff now. I think I may have been hit with something like a directed energy weapon a few days ago, but I don't know, maybe it's just my mind tricking me. But I had a crazy experience where I felt like my skull was zapped or something like that. I felt like I was zapped. And so I actually told some people the experience. But yeah, it's not good. The direction we're heading, it's not good. And so it's like almost like a lot of the horror sci-fi we saw in the past we thought was fiction is almost like gradually going to become a reality or something. I don't know. That seems that direction we're heading and stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
I've said, if you want to look to fiction, I think that the best 3 movies, in my opinion, would be 2001, Zardoz, and The Dark Crystal. It basically tells you the origin of the problem, the people doing the problem, and then what the ending will look like, which will basically just be the return of the advanced humans I was telling you about before at the start of the Kali Yuga finding their way. Yeah, have you guys ever seen The Dark Crystal?
Yeah.
The puppet movie, the one with the puppet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah. The bird. Yeah, Zardoz. I wish he wore something better in that movie. He kind of looked like my dad. Sean Connery looks like my dad, but the what he's wearing in that movie is weird. Yeah, Sean Connery.
He's wearing the appeal of a brutal.
Yeah, I recommend you watch some movies. Actually, I want to see your opinion. One of them is Weapons from 2025. I actually talked about that a bit. I'm not sure if you were there as I talked about it. Weapons, it came out in 2025. The second one is Possessor from 2020. I want to hear about your opinion on those two movies. You have the time and stuff.
Yeah, put them in the chat.
Sure, thank you.
I watched the Michael Jackson movie. That's the latest movie I watched. It was really just a concert as a movie.
All right, guys. I'm gonna shut it down for today. We'll be back tomorrow, with some more exciting stuff. If you guys got some other stuff you want to say, definitely come back tomorrow, all three of you guys. To talk more, because I'm gonna lay down a much deeper explanation than I gave today in the first hour of this. Right. And then we had maybe a 30-minute conversation with Shem. And that was pretty cool. But definitely rocked out solo for almost the first hour here. So definitely check that out. We gave our best shot there. But yeah, would you guys like to say anything else? I hate to cut you guys off. Please take your time.
Do not seek the treasure.
Yeah.
I'll get off. Yeah, it's cool. Just
Yeah, appreciate it, Dom. Yeah, great stuff today.
agape. I heard you guys asking when I got off what it meant. It basically means that I love you as much as I love myself, and
Yeah,
that
same to you, brother. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, same to you.
that's what it means. All right,
Yeah,
later.
Yeah, agape. Yeah, blessings.
Blessings. Yeah.
And yeah, what about you, Buddha?
Yeah, I don't have much to say. I just take it easy. I have some books I want to read, of course, but yeah, I feel like people should just remain calm and realize that you have something special within you that no technician, no crazy elite or whatever can take from you.
Yeah, beautiful stuff. Buddha, thank you so much for your contributions. Thank you to Dom. Thank you to Shem. And of course, thank you to Reddington. Blessings to all the people that are here in the chat. To Creek Mary and Denise and the homie from across the pond. And Alchemos, I greatly appreciate you guys. We had Jake and Frank and Mega Man, of course. Right, and a bunch of other people. Majestica Madness, I greatly appreciate you, my friend. Thank you so much for watching. And yeah, thank you all for your brilliant commentary. Void, blessings, guys. Thank you for joining us here on the Machine Lies, where we talk about the lies of the machine on the machine that lies. And blessings to the homie Browns. Thank you so much for being here. And of course to Dresden, blessings, brother. Thanks for joining us today. I appreciate your commentary today. And some of the other people, Marsha and me. Thank you for being here. All right, guys. I know there was another person here too. Star Fox was here saying some weird shit. Yeah, sorry if I missed you. Okay, but yeah, man, we got to keep it a little bit more kosher around here for a little while in terms of the material blessings to the people. And yeah, okay, so that's all we have for today. Join us next time, tomorrow night. And thank you for joining us here on The Machine Lies, where we talk about the lies of the machine on the machine that lies. And I made this video for the show today, and you guys may have seen these videos going around. It's like, futuristic wizards, right, that are gangsters. But yeah, blessings.
Daddy! Daddy! Where are you, Daddy? Daddy, I guess I'm just the orphan with the whooping coffin. Check it out. I don't need to be home. I got my own tone and a stone. Check me out. My issues like a pit. Don't need to flip. I'm screaming, Daddy, Daddy. Why should I have to flip when the llama small frame games are shot like a grizzly? L.E.R. Winston begin because the interviews that come paint mistakes make the fake shape like paint on some fake weight. Some fake infiltrate. They took the bait. I make just hard rock. Stocks for cook with up without the level. My level of style was cool. The devil with the 40 caliber. Looking at challenge. What's your bad number? A different number cause I cut like over undercover. See my blade running faster than your label on my ink. With the ladle in my head. Get your cable off my itch. Cause I spit my hole in my prick. Your causes, they won't stick me. And double down the swell. A few terrible well into my own tone. The roam zones, the bones, I'm known to break them. Give me my props or I'ma take them. You're not Gary Cooper, it's all Robinson's deck from blows to the head. Punts and cuts are only once, and once they got it. Soulless rotten, now you wear stocking. Peace is the way to go, but introducts to play, a dream weaver. He's a kid that used to be like Eva, a deceiver. Won't receive about a rap from the preacher. Am I any more turn whore before I rock a to that's bullshit. Stop it before I pull it. I gotta be take a full hit. The beat the bit, cause that would be legit. Strip the woman, and you find the heart and a cutter. But I don't open my chin, don't get better run, brother. This is the test, bring your number 2, let him your racer in the place. Time to use your head. Bring your daughter to the sorter in the press. I found a mortar or the slacker, but that's not my style. So a corner like this. I slip wrist some chicks with a Swiss, get the gist. I'm into this like a dentist in the splits. I'm going out. The right one, baby, if you're listening, the best thing about being black is that I'm listening in the night. Right for right, I'm guaranteed to bite with the tight, with the finger in the mouth, but it's the Michael Ludo. And there's lots of others, disturbed mothers. And don't forget the sons and brothers with pipes, stick chains, knives, and crowbars. Snipers on rooftop, and niggas with sonar. Rhythm X marks the spot where bombs are dropped. No need for clock, shit's on fire for block. Here comes the cops, are you ready, black man, black child? Throw away the black and black attacking crack files. I'm smoking, yo, I ain't joking. I'm open like a token, the innocuous, oblivious, and that is what you're hoping. Nobody make a move when the office start to manage. Tech, give him hell and tell Bush that's the damage. I ain't paying the human resources delaying. Give out no cheese, so no need for parlaying. Section 8, yo, is what I'm saying. Give me my 8 to decaying. Time to start slaying, 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 slaying. I'm going out. I'm going out. I'm going out. I'm going out.
motion when you got them with the four rockers and the 5 times a lot of meditate, navigate the micro, the macro, metacosm phrase. Get real and climb before a mecha snake movers wanna shake my mind. I see the true look in a book of your kind. Your acts and your facts go down on the line. On earth, your episode got shoddy from acting the roles. New 97 times is diving the gold. A production being dipped in Patron, but not disinflating with knowledge. Embracing my soul before a mecha, taking my intellect to luxury control. Plus the setup, no Christ or Confucius, white hard and diamonds. Can set the net up to get the jewels from these books of being the last writers and serving the back. Chapter 6 is in the days when disciples was multiplied. Our evangelistic code script to describe. Black genetic pride kept the moving seed alive. AIG for 6,000 years the devil got his shine. 100 years out of slavery, this rap game is mine. Exercise, visualize, enterprise. Precipitation is the platinum reflection with the all-seeing retina written out. Gamma tech, gamma ray. Never catch feelings for the job. Involve the movement with the order and evolve. Never attach or revolve before Mecca. I was studying the enemy sector, seeing the scepter, setting up the Babylon director. Forever my rawness is the ill black calculus. Encrypt God code on my DNA figure. And about this Caligula, New Rome drama side. The first flash of math will defy the supreme. Novocaine locked down on the 21st century. Be drill a revelation inside your psychology. No Illuminati could kill the Asiatic body. Hot catch with before a mecha turnstile levels was a wrong. But for now, allow form and involuntary organizers. Set the alarm, I said it before. Take the dynasty killer. That was the government's can uncover this, perfect the phrase, go back. Be back the function, select the race, son, and avoid the abduction. Know the plus lesson, addressing the force of the cross. Brothers were hanging heads of Jesus from the neck, divorce. I'll get blast with no legend foundation to rap. Or with the force guard head, and you're still subject. They got the nerve to feel free. How you see, bring the forward force with the gradient vector. The ill thrill kill, moves about the intellector. Invincible I am, civilize the man. New molecules of dual covert, atomic plan. Time is a way in, the presence of war with the one self. I'll be real, I'll piss the triple lines, 3 veils and 3 steals. Before Mecca, there was a base level range of understanding. After Mecca, my new circumference run is oneness. 97 made Hodge, retrieve my sword, slaying the hordes of rhyme boards and revealing the cause. Revealing the cause.
Summoned life instead of death, slumber huddled up with the cousin undercovers of best fucking intentions. Hissing grimace delivered clearer from mirror reflection. Up comes your hand from the lake and takes your net flung down to the depths. Sunk funky and loaded, you float back to the top. God, luckily you notice. Reset button engaged, stay humble and focused. Maybe this time around you stay clear the hocus pocus. Don't externalize your enemies when entering your omens. The motion of souls does not discriminate. Assimilating emanations and from limbo's limitations. Symbols lent to give you sages, infinitely instrumental gifts from their credential cases. Infiltrate this wicked men's assembled matrix. But await, I give them hell, heaven sent, but it'll wait. This mental brace when reaching the crescendo, spinning missiles, aiming rituals of imbeciles. Just typical, the simple planes, the vain insane and little brain. Faces of the general slain, grand ship with lizard veins. Entering apprentices, just listen for the mythic language scattered by the Elohim. Demon scientists of ancient folklore, the story changes. 40 faces of politics, living dangerous. Temples leaking on the battlefield, it's all the same to us as angel dust. Culture couldn't save another soldier if we tried. So we send them to the furnace and refurbish the earth with life. meditation. Breaking down like saliva. Nightlife in the Pied Piper, Sandman in the psilocybin, Cypher in the silence of quasars, vacuum of brain form under rabbits rule, the magical, maniacal, majestic, mankind animal, assessing, analyzing, cool, calm, collecting artifacts of old, lead and gold, headed molded from the solar coats of comatose modern robots, so lost in soul oppression, stepping from the shadows of the Nephilim, begging for some melanin, vested best was selling swift through elements and riffs and giving gifts from the conjured ones, channeling the travelers, practitioners are washed in blood, hostile flood, a cocked gun, the Holocaust is all but run its course, carnage bound carnivores, converge under the god of war, Orpheus just torn to bits by morbid men who forced the doors of our cathedrals, evil on assignment from ourselves. This koan suplex my sanity, just binding up the spells. If inglorious Satorius afforded, only time will tell. Time will tell. To run the dead sun, the dead sun. 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 Red rum.
those two walls and that ceiling meet, where you'll be peeling me from when the dreams become abilities. The trilogy of growth, I'm at the second level, where every word is special and I'm lost inside the echoes. And when it settles, I touch that third stage. I shuck these mental shackles and blast my way out of that bird cage. Earthquake signifies an active foundation. It's got the posture aching, keeps my head out of these constellations. From this high, I may identify the obstacles. When I get this high, my head becomes a hospital. Voices bitching and bickering, complaining that they sick and injured, bleeding and hungry. Give me my tourniquets. Feed them nourishment and included with the diluted juice and bruised fruits I distributed. Who knew they wounds would heal so quick? Who knew the passion would be compassion and get them fastened onto the dick? Might as well have let them penetrate. The view from here shook me, looking at rookies that try to emulate. Take the time to break the rhymes down for what you gather. Only after will I climb to the rafter without my ladder.
Stability, overseer, stand over, ability, hover, provide contraceptive and meteor showers. The sky is falling, the earth is collapsing, seas freeze. Seize my support structure, you simmer. I make shape but provide shade upon your living mass. Granted, I'm branded with a limestone trim. So your epicenter split into shambles while the lights turn dim. Sheep, stop bellowing, hug your teddy bears. Instead, towards the light in my center, cynical minds mind your master. It's only a shame of the rock slide, landing on your backslide. Who needs to walk you laymen? Spend all of your time inside. I see it all, I saw it all, I encase it all. And with all my power, they should have built more columns for me. The ball's still rolling, there's only 2 pins left, brother. Whether above or upon, I promise to always provide some cover. Quit breathing so much, this ain't comfortable for me. But I was more affordable than the ones that they had built in the early 90s. Oh my, look at those memories, listen to them complain. Some bitch about champagne, others talk about how they should have took the train. Regardless of your stature, status, or economical bubble, I'm still on top of your world, even if it's a pile of rubble.
Dripping through, walking on, hanging from, peeling off, dripping through, walking on, hanging from, peeling off. What in the name of human built this ceiling? How industrious it must have been. Awful continuous to span those reaches and rays. Not a wall, empty space only between. No corners, ceiling, the lid perceived on a system of physical laws. How high? Height being among the first 3 you can't touch. It goes on to stretch an unexplainable linear roof of instance. Too relative for shelter. Its protection proposes our challenge to exist in. Hold, will it hold, and for how long? With such holes tearing into nowhere justifies nothing we define or travel as fast as too distinct to blanket vast. It surrounds our absolute upper limits. Our reference comprises our synchronous tick tock, tick tock. Thank it for your fears and lows. Know if it starts or stops. Tick tock, rest beneath the safety it can only prop. It's not sturdy, old, weak, young, or made of tick-tock. It's above, with, under, in structure and stronger than our nails. Words, ages, beams, any watch. Tick, tick, tick. Tock, 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 tock.
I've experienced, been a witness to many happenings up to this point. Life and death have passed my eyes on both occasions. They anoint. At the beginning, I looked down and I witnessed birth. But confined to my position, I never realized what it was worth. I never realized the beauty it expounds and the emotions it induces. Never realized what true love, but sometimes no love at all produces. Never realized what I was going to see in my adventures of now. But realized I was in for a lot of sightseeing. So somehow I didn't pay much attention to the positive aspects of things. Only victims of stabbings and shooting. Who the fat ladies sing. They say they're on their way out as they pass through me, hoping each time that they could take me with them, so I could see a different aspect of the world, perhaps above the building, but let down every time they told me that they were not willing to take some extra baggage, as they chose to refer to I. Perhaps I'll never leave this place, so now all I do is sigh and think, what was I? But I was so misled that I only showed my interest in souls that were covered in red. Now I look back and I feel that I was cheated with precision. The different aspect that I had longed for was so clearly in my vision. Got sick and tired of negativity and I was due for a change, but never figured out that I needed not to rearrange. It was all before me, and I could have seen life as well. Now my one-track mind has only stories that no one wants me to tell. Dripping through, walking on, hanging from, peeling off,
Well, I tell you what, I don't have time to do this, but I tell you what, if you promise me, I got an old bunkhouse, I'll send you back that you can live in. If you promise me my real kitchen bar,